1 year into the war, and the galaxy was witnessing something it had never seen before. The Krell, conquerors of 5,000 worlds, were stuck in a stalemate with a species barely beyond its home system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's last supercarrier. Around him, the remains of humanity's fleet prepared for what might be their final mission. Intelligence had confirmed the worst. The Krell were building a doomsday weapon, something that would sterilize Earth and every human colony simultaneously. "How long until we reach the Krell homeworld?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Danny Park checked his console. He had been a young ensign when the war started, barely out of the academy. Now he was a battle-hardened officer who had seen more death than anyone his age should. 6 hours at current speed, sir. Jake nodded. The plan was simple, brutal, and possibly suicidal. Reach the Krell homeworld. Destroy it before they could activate their weapon. It was mutual destruction, but at least humanity would take the Krell with them. "Sir," Danny said hesitantly, "do you think we're doing the right thing? Destroying their entire world?" Jake was quiet for a moment. A year ago, he would have said no without hesitation. But a year of war changes a person. He had seen colony after colony burn. He had lost friends, crew members, people he cared about. The Krell had shown no mercy, so why should humanity? "I don't know if it's right, Danny, but it's necessary. They started this war. We're just finishing it." Across the ship, Ambassador Claire Johnson was in her quarters, reviewing the latest intelligence. She wasn't military. She was a diplomat, someone who believed in peace and negotiation. But the war had pulled her in like everyone else. Her console beeped. An encrypted message from the Zenthri, one of the ancient species that had survived multiple Krell invasions. Claire opened it, and what she read made her heart stop. The Zenthri had sent her historical records about the Krell, not just military data, but their actual history, and it changed everything. Claire ran from her quarters, racing through the corridors. She had to reach Jake before it was too late. Meanwhile, Danny was monitoring communications when something strange appeared on his screen. He was intercepting Krell transmissions, something they had been doing throughout the war. But this was different. "Sir?" he called out. "I'm picking up unusual Krell communications. They're arguing with each other." Jake frowned. "That's impossible. The Krell are a hive mind. They don't argue." "Well, they're doing it now. Multiple nodes are broadcasting conflicting orders. Some want to continue the attack. Others are saying to pull back. It's chaos, sir. I've never seen anything like this." Jake moved to Danny's station, studying the data. It was true. The Krell collective consciousness, which had been unified for 10,000 years, was fracturing. One message caught Jake's attention. It was being broadcast from a single Krell node, repeating over and over. "We recognize you now. You are what we were. You are survivors." Before Jake could process what that meant, Claire burst onto the bridge, out of breath and clutching a datapad. "Stop!" she gasped. "Stop the attack. Please, you have to listen to me." Jake turned to her, his expression hard. "Ambassador, we're 6 hours from ending this war. Whatever you have to say, it can wait." "No, it can't." Claire activated her datapad, projecting a hologram for everyone to see. "The Zenthri sent me this. It's the real history of the Krell." The hologram showed images from thousands of years ago. A younger Krell civilization, peaceful and advanced. Then came another species, something huge and monstrous. The images showed Krell worlds burning, their people dying by the billions. "The Krell weren't always conquerors," Claire explained. 15,000 years ago, they were nearly wiped out by another species. The war almost destroyed them. Only a fraction survived, and those survivors made a decision. They would never be victims again. They would become strong enough that no one could ever threaten them. They would conquer first, before anyone could conquer them. Jake stared at the images. They became monsters because they were afraid. Yes, they'd been running from that fear for 15,000 years. Every species they conquered, every world they took, it was all because they were terrified of being destroyed again. Claire looked at Jake with pleading eyes. "Don't you see? We're doing the same thing. We're becoming exactly what we hate because we're afraid." "They killed millions of us," Jake said, his voice rough with emotion. "They would have wiped out humanity without a second thought." "I know. But look at what Danny found. Their hive mind is breaking. For the first time, individual Krell are thinking for themselves. They're questioning the war. Some of them don't want to fight anymore." Danny pulled up another transmission. "She's right, sir. I'm seeing more and more dissenting voices in the Krell network. One node is even calling for peace talks. It's identifying itself as unity. Jake felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. And it terrified him because hope could get you killed. Sir, we're approaching weapons range of the Krell homeworld, the tactical officer called out. Jake looked at the planet ahead. One command and he could end this. Destroy the Krell homeworld. Ensure they could never threaten humanity again. It would be justice for everyone they had killed. But it would also make humanity into what the Krell had become. Victims turned into monsters. Danny, can you open a channel to this Unity node? I can try, sir. The bridge was silent as Danny worked. After several tense minutes, he nodded. Channel open, sir. The Unity node is responding. The screen flickered and a Krell appeared. But something was different about this one. Its movements were less synchronized, more individual. Its eyes showed something the Krell had never displayed before. Uncertainty. I am Unity, the Krell said. I am a fragment of the Overmind. I have separated to speak with you. Why? Jake asked. Because I have studied you. I have watched you fight. I have seen how you survive. And I understand now. You are what we were before fear made us into weapons. You are survivors who fight because you must, not because you want to conquer. Unity moved closer to the screen. The Overmind is fracturing. Your resistance has done what nothing else could. You have made us question our purpose. If we cannot defeat you, if you can hurt us this badly, then perhaps our fear was wrong. Perhaps there is another way. You want peace? Jake asked, disbelieving. Some of us do. Not all. The Overmind is dividing into separate consciousnesses. It is painful, chaotic. But it is happening. The question is, what will you do? Will you destroy us and prove that our fear was justified? Or will you show us that survival does not require conquest? Jake looked at his crew, at Danny, who had lost his entire family to a Krell attack, at the tactical officer, who had her finger on the weapon controls, at Claire, who was silently begging him to choose peace. Sir, the tactical officer said, the Krell doomsday weapon is charging. If we're going to strike, it has to be now. Jake's hand moved toward the command console. One button. That was all it would take. Mutual destruction. Both species would die, but at least the Krell wouldn't win. His fingers hovered over the button. A year of war. A year of death. A year of becoming something he never thought he would be. Was this what humanity was? Destroyers. Or were they something more? Jake pulled his hand back. Stand down, weapons. The tactical officer looked at him in shock. Sir? I said stand down. Jake turned to the screen, looking at Unity. We'll talk. But if this is a trick, if the Krell attack again, we will finish this. And next time we won't hesitate. Unity's form seemed to relax slightly. It is not a trick. I speak for 17 fragments of the Overmind who want peace. Others still want war. We are divided. But I promise you we will not attack first. Neither will we, Jake said. Claire, you're up. Start the negotiations. As Claire moved to take over communications, Danny leaned close to Jake. Sir, how do you know we can trust them? Jake watched the Krell homeworld on the screen, imagining all the lives there. Not monsters, not demons, just another species that had let fear turn them into something terrible. I don't know if we can trust them, Danny, but I know that if we destroy them now, we become them, and I'm not ready to do that. Not yet. The Defiance held position, weapons powered down but ready. On the Krell homeworld, Unity gathered the fragments that wanted peace, and in the space between them, two species that had been trying to destroy each other began to talk. The war wasn't over, not by a long shot. Too much blood had been spilled. Too much pain had been inflicted. But for the first time in a year, there was a possibility of something other than mutual destruction. Jake sat in his chair, exhausted. They had found their match in the Krell. And maybe, just maybe, the Krell had found their match in humanity. Two survivor species, both shaped by fear and struggle, both capable of terrible violence. The question was, could they be capable of something else? Could they learn from each other instead of destroying each other? Time would tell, but at least now there was time. The silence in space was broken by alarms screaming through the bridge of the horizon's edge. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his chair as the ship shuddered, dropping out of hyperspace much earlier than planned. Report, Jake said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez worked frantically at her console. "Sir, we picked up a distress signal. It pulled us out automatically. The coordinates put us in Sector 77 Alpha." Jake frowned. That sector was supposed to be empty. No colonies, no trade routes, nothing but dead space. "Katie, can you clean up that signal?" Ensign Katie Brooks adjusted her headset, fingers dancing across the communications panel. "Working on it, sir. It's strange, though. The signal is broadcasting on every frequency at once. I've never seen anything like it." Dr. Peter Yang looked up from his station, his face pale. "Captain, you need to see this." The main screen flickered to life and Jake felt his blood run cold. Before them lay a graveyard of ships. Hundreds of vessels floated dead in space, their hulls torn open, debris spreading for thousands of kilometers. Some ships he recognized from the database. Sentry cruisers, Belfar traders, even military vessels from the Korean Empire. All destroyed. "How long ago did this happen?" Jake asked quietly. Peter checked his readings. "Based on the debris field pattern and energy signatures, I'd say less than 6 hours ago." 6 hours. Whatever did this was recent, possibly still nearby. Jake's mind raced through possibilities. Pirates didn't have this kind of firepower. Neither did any known military force. "Sir?" Amy's voice cut through his thoughts. "I'm detecting a single vessel at the center of the debris field. It's massive. Easily 10 times the size of our ship." Jake leaned forward. "Put it on screen." The image shifted, zooming past the wreckage until a ship came into view. It was unlike anything in human records. The vessel was enormous, its surface covered in what looked like organic armor. Strange lights pulsed along its length like a heartbeat. It didn't look built. It looked grown. "Katie, scan for life signs," Jake ordered. "Already on it, sir." "I'm reading thousands of life forms aboard that ship. Maybe tens of thousands. But the readings are strange. They're all synchronized, like they're breathing in perfect unison." A chill ran down Jake's spine. Before he could respond, every screen on the bridge lit up at once. Katie gasped as her console went wild. "They're hailing us," she said, her voice shaking. "Put it through." The screen changed, and Jake found himself staring at something from a nightmare. The creature had 4 arms, each ending in clawed hands. Its body was covered in thick chitinous armor that seemed to shift colors from black to deep purple. But it was the eyes that made Jake's heart pound. 6 of them arranged in 2 rows, all focused directly on him with an intelligence that was unmistakably hostile. When it spoke, the words came through Katie's translation system in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "You are human." It wasn't a question. Jake straightened in his chair. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Coalition vessel Horizon's Edge. Who are you?" "We are Krell. We are conquerors of 5,000 worlds. We are the end of all resistance." The creature moved closer to its screen. "You are new to us. Your species is not in our records." "This is unusual," Amy whispered urgently. "Sir, their weapons are charging." Jake kept his eyes on the screen. "We mean you no harm. We responded to a distress signal." The Krell made a sound that might have been laughter. "The signal was bait. We destroy all ships that respond. It reveals the foolish and the weak." It tilted its head, studying Jake with those unsettling eyes. "Your world? Where is it?" "That's not information I'm going to give you," Jake said firmly. "You misunderstand. We will find it regardless. We always do. We are giving you an opportunity. Tell us now, and your death will be quick." Peter was frantically working his console, trying to gather any data he could on this species. Amy had her hand on the weapons control, waiting for Jake's order. Katie was recording everything, her face pale but determined. Jake made his decision. "I don't know who you think you are, but humanity doesn't respond well to threats." The Krell's eyes seemed to brighten with something like pleasure. "Defiance. We have seen this before. In every species we have conquered, it always ends the same way. Maybe we're different. You are not." The Krell leaned back. "We have existed for 10,000 of your years. We have conquered species with technology beyond your imagination. We have destroyed civilizations that spanned hundreds of worlds. You are barely beyond your own star system. You are nothing." The Krell raised one clawed hand. "We are curious about your species. We will study you as we destroy you. You have 3 of your planetary cycles to gather your kind. Surrender your worlds, your ships, your weapons, or we will take them. This is the only mercy we offer." "And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then you will learn what every other species has learned. Resistance is temporary. Krell victory is eternal." The screen went dark for a moment, then lit up again with a view of space. Jake watched in horror as two of his escort ships, the Ranger and the Swift, exploded simultaneously. The Krell vessel hadn't even moved. Whatever weapons it possessed could strike from impossible distances. Katie was crying silently at her station. Peter looked sick. Amy's hands were clenched so tight her knuckles were white. The Krell appeared on screen one last time. That was a demonstration. Return to your world. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that the Krell are coming. Tell them that their time is over. The massive vessel began to glow, energy building around it in waves that distorted space itself. Then, in a flash of light that blinded their sensors for several seconds, it was gone. Jake sat in his chair, staring at the empty space where the Krell ship had been. Around them floated the bodies of hundreds of destroyed vessels and the debris of 2 human ships. Good people he had known, dead in an instant. Katie, did you get all of that recorded? He asked quietly. Yes, sir. Every word, every image. Amy, can we jump to hyperspace? She checked her console, her hands still shaking. Engines are damaged, but we can make it. It'll be slow, but we can get home. Then set course for Earth, maximum speed. Jake stood up, his legs unsteady. Peter, I want everything you can find on that species. Search every database we have. If they've encountered anyone before, I want to know about it. Sir, Amy said, her voice barely above a whisper. What are we going to do? They're going to invade. They're going to come for Earth. Jake looked at the screen, at the graveyard of ships from species that had probably asked the same question. We're going to do what humans always do, Amy. We're going to survive. And we're going to fight. The horizon's edge turned slowly, its damaged engines struggling to build power. Behind them, the debris field floated as a silent testament to Krell power. Ahead of them, Earth waited, unaware that humanity had just encountered something they had never faced before, an enemy they might not be able to beat. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving the graveyard behind, Jake made a silent promise. The Krell thought humans were just another species to conquer. They thought human defiance was the same as every other species they had destroyed. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The command center on Earth was silent as the recording finished playing. Admiral Lisa Chen stood at the head of the table, her face hard as stone. Around her sat the leaders of every human colony, every military branch, every government on Earth and beyond. They had all just watched the Krell destroy 2 human ships like they were nothing. 3 days, Senator Marcus Grant said, breaking the silence. They gave us 3 days to surrender. 2 days now, Lisa corrected. The message took time to reach us. We have 48 hours before they expect our answer. Colonel Ryan Foster slammed his fist on the table. Then we fight. We don't bow to threats. We've never surrendered before, and we won't start now. Against what? Marcus stood up, his face red. You saw that ship. You saw what it did. It destroyed 2 military vessels without even moving. How do we fight that? Lisa raised her hand for silence. Dr. Helen Park has been analyzing the data from the horizon's edge. Helen, what do you have? Dr. Helen Park stepped forward, activating a holographic display. The Krell ship appeared above the table, rotating slowly. The vessel is biological in nature. It's grown, not built. The armor appears to be a living organism, possibly regenerative. Their weapons use some form of directed energy we haven't encountered before. Can we defend against it? Lisa asked. With our current shields? No, the energy output is too high. It would cut through our defenses like they weren't there. Helen paused. But I may have found something interesting. Look at the attack pattern. The hologram showed the moment the escort ships were destroyed. They fired at maximum range. Maximum power. No warning shots, no attempts to disable. They went straight for complete destruction. Ryan leaned forward. So, that just means they're ruthless. Or inexperienced with actual combat, Helen said. Think about it. If you've won every fight for thousands of years, if every enemy surrenders or dies quickly, you don't learn tactics. You don't learn strategy. You just use overwhelming force because it always works. Lisa felt something click in her mind. They're bullies. They've never had to actually fight a real war. Exactly, Helen said. Captain Morrison's report said the Krell have conquered 5,000 species. But how many of those actually fought back? How many surrendered at the first show of force? Marcus shook his head. This is insane. You're talking about fighting a species that has conquered thousands of worlds. We have barely 50 colonies. We're nothing compared to them. We're human, Lisa said quietly. That means something. She walked to the window, looking out at Earth below. I've been reading our history. Real history, not the sanitized version. Do you know how many wars humans have fought? How many times we've killed each other? How many ways we've invented to survive against impossible odds? Lisa turned back to the room. Every other species in the galaxy developed without serious competition. They reached the top of their food chain and stayed there. They became civilized, peaceful. But not us. Earth made us fight for everything. We had to compete with hundreds of predator species. We had to survive ice ages, plagues, famines. We spent thousands of years fighting each other just to stay alive. How does that help us now? Marcus asked. Because war is in our nature, Ryan said, understanding dawning on his face. Not because we're cruel, but because we know how to do it. Really do it, Lisa nodded. The Krell use overwhelming force. They expect fear and surrender. So we don't give them what they expect. We make this ugly. We make this painful. We make them bleed for every inch. Helen brought up another display. I have a proposal. The Krell ship is biological. That means it can be infected, poisoned, attacked with biological weapons. We can't match their firepower, but we can make their own technology work against them. That's not war, Marcus said, his voice shaking. That's terrorism. That's dishonor. Dishonor, Lisa repeated. She walked over to Marcus, her eyes hard. Let me tell you about honor, Senator. Honor is a luxury for people who can afford it. Those 2 ships the Krell destroyed? There were good people on them. People with families. The Krell killed them to make a point. They didn't challenge them to honorable combat. They just erased them. Lisa's voice grew stronger. The Krell are coming to exterminate us. Not defeat us. Not conquer us. Exterminate us. So yes, we'll fight dirty. We'll use every trick, every trap, every weapon we can think of. Because honor doesn't matter when you're dead. The room was silent. Finally, Ryan stood up. What do you need from us, Admiral? Everything, Lisa said. Every ship we have. Every soldier. Every weapon. Helen, I want your team working around the clock on biological weapons. Computer viruses, anything that can hurt the Krell. Ryan, I need your Reaper squadron ready for a special mission. Ryan grinned, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. What kind of mission? The kind where we steal a Krell command ship and figure out how to kill them from the inside. Marcus looked horrified. That's suicide. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But it's also our only chance. If we can get our hands on their technology, we can learn their weaknesses. We can turn their own weapons against them. I volunteer, Ryan said immediately. My whole squadron will volunteer. Lisa nodded. I know they will. But this is bigger than one mission. We need to change how we think about war. The Krell expect us to meet them in open battle. Fleet against fleet. So we don't. We hit and run. We ambush. We make them chase us into traps. We make every victory cost them more than it's worth. Helen pulled up a map of human space. We have 12 major colonies and 38 minor settlements. I suggest we evacuate the civilians from the outer colonies and turn them into killing grounds. Let the Krell take them, but make them pay in blood. You're talking about sacrificing our own colonies, Marcus said, stunned. I'm talking about using them as weapons, Lisa corrected. Every building becomes a bomb. Every street becomes a trap. We let the Krell think they're winning, and then we make them regret every step they take. Ryan was nodding, his mind already working through possibilities. We could rig the fusion reactors to overload. Set them on timers. The Krell take the colony, think they've won, and then boom. No more Krell. Exactly, Lisa said. We make them afraid. The Krell have probably never felt fear. They've always been the hunters. Time to show them what it's like to be prey. Marcus stood up, his face pale. This will change us. If we fight this way, we won't be the same species when it's over. We'll become monsters. Lisa met his gaze. Maybe. But we'll be alive monsters. And that's better than being honorable corpses. She turned to address the entire room. I won't lie to you. This will be the hardest fight humanity has ever faced. We will lose people. We will lose colonies. We will have to do things that will haunt us forever. But we will survive. Because that's what humans do. Lisa activated the communication system. Send a message to every colony, every ship, every human in space. Total mobilization. Everyone fights. Everyone contributes. We have 2 days to prepare for war. Ryan stood up. And what about the Krell ultimatum? What do we tell them in 2 days? Lisa smiled, and it was cold as space itself. We tell them no. We tell them that humanity doesn't surrender, and then we show them exactly what happens when you threaten Earth. The meeting broke up, people rushing to their assignments. Helen headed to her lab to start developing weapons. Ryan gathered his squadron for their impossible mission. Marcus left, still shaking his head, unable to accept what was coming. Lisa stayed in the command center looking at the star map. Somewhere out there the Krell were coming. They expected an easy victory. They expected humans to be like every other species they had conquered. They were about to learn the hardest lesson in the galaxy. Humans weren't like other species. Humans had spent their entire existence learning how to survive, how to adapt, how to turn weakness into strength and fear into fury. The Krell thought they were the galaxy's most feared species. They thought nothing could stand against them. Lisa whispered to the empty room. You found your match. You just don't know it yet. In orbit above Earth, the military fleet was assembling. Every ship humanity could spare was gathering for the fight of their lives. Soldiers trained. Scientists worked. Civilians evacuated or prepared to fight. The clock was ticking down. 2 days until the Krell expected surrender. 2 days until humanity showed the galaxy what real warriors looked like. 6 months had passed since the war began, and the galaxy was watching in shock. The conflict that should have ended in days had become something no one expected. The Krell, unstoppable for thousands of years, were bleeding. Commander Ben Taylor stood in the war room studying the tactical display. 12 human colonies had fallen to the Krell, but each victory had cost them dearly. The map showed red zones where Krell forces controlled territory, but those zones were shrinking, not growing. Captain Nora Sullivan entered the room, her stealth suit still active and shimmering. She had just returned from a deep reconnaissance mission behind enemy lines. Report, Ben said without looking up. The Krell are confused, Nora said, deactivating her suit. I intercepted their communications. They're calling us demons. Ghosts. They can't understand why we won't just die. Ben allowed himself a small smile. Good. Confusion leads to mistakes. The door opened again and Sergeant Kevin Martinez walked in. His uniform was dirty and he had a fresh bandage on his arm. He had just come from Nova Terra, one of the colonies the Krell had taken 3 weeks ago. Nova Terra is ready, Kevin said, dropping into a chair. The last civilian transport left yesterday. Everything is in place, Indul. How many Krell are there? Ben asked. About 10,000 warriors. They've set up their command center in the main city, just like we predicted. They think they've secured the colony. Kevin's expression hardened. They have no idea what's coming, Ben nodded. Nova Terra was the trap that would change everything. The Krell had taken it easily, just like the other colonies. Too easily. They didn't question why the humans had retreated so quickly. They didn't wonder why the colony seemed intact. Execute the plan in 6 hours, Ben ordered. Give Kevin time to get clear. Kevin stood up. With respect, sir, I'm staying. My team is staying. We want to see this through. Kevin, the entire colony is going to explode. The fusion reactors, the fuel depots, every building. There won't be anything left, I know, sir. But we've spent 3 weeks setting this up. We've earned the right to watch it burn. Kevin's eyes were cold. Those things killed a lot of good people. This is personal. Ben understood. He had lost friends too. They all had. Fine, but you get out the moment the countdown starts. No heroes. We need experienced soldiers, not martyrs. Yes, sir. After Kevin left, Nora moved closer to the display. Do you think it will work? Will one colony be enough to make them scared? One colony won't, Ben admitted. But it's not just Nova Terra. It's everything we've been doing. The ambushes. The traps. The way we refuse to fight them on their terms. The Krell have never experienced this before. He pulled up footage from the last major battle. It showed a Krell fleet engaging human ships. The human vessels were clearly outmatched, taking heavy damage. Then, just as the Krell moved in for the kill, the human ships retreated into an asteroid field. The Krell followed, confident in their victory. What they didn't know was that humans had spent weeks mining those asteroids with explosives. When the Krell fleet was deep inside, the asteroids detonated. The resulting chain reaction destroyed half the Krell fleet. They call that cowardly, Nora said. Their communications were full of it. They say we fight without honor. They're right, Ben said. We fight without honor. We fight without rules. We fight to win. He looked at Nora. How was your mission to their home system? Nora's smile was vicious. The virus is deployed. It's spreading through their network right now. In a few days, every Krell ship will have it. Every communication system, every data node. And what will it do? Nothing at first. It will just watch, learn, record. But when we activate it, it will show every Krell the same message simultaneously. A message from humanity. Ben raised an eyebrow. What message? The truth. That they're not invincible. That we're not afraid of them. That every battle costs them more than they can afford. That we will never stop, never surrender, never give up. We want them to feel something they've never felt before. Fear, Ben said. Exactly. On the Krell homeworld, something impossible was happening. The Overmind, the collective consciousness that controlled every Krell, was experiencing doubt for the first time in its existence. The Overmind had studied the humans extensively over the past 6 months. It had analyzed every battle, every tactic, every strange decision the humans made, and none of it made sense according to Krell understanding of warfare. Humans sacrificed valuable territory to destroy Krell forces. They retreated from battles they might win just to preserve their soldiers. They used weapons that were considered dishonorable by every other species. They fought in ways that seemed random, chaotic, inefficient, but it was working. The Krell were dying in numbers they had never experienced. Battles that should take hours were lasting weeks. Colonies that should fall in days were turning into death traps. The Overmind began searching through human history, trying to understand this enemy. What it found disturbed it deeply. Humans had been at war for their entire existence. They had fought each other for thousands of years before ever leaving their planet. They had developed hundreds of different ways to kill, to survive, to win against impossible odds. War wasn't something humans did. War was something humans were. The Overmind discovered human tactics from ancient Earth, guerrilla warfare, scorched Earth, psychological operations, every trick, every strategy, every brutal lesson learned from millennia of conflict. The Krell had evolved as apex predators with no competition. Humans had evolved as survivors who had to fight for everything. For the first time in its 10,000-year existence, the Overmind felt something new. It felt uncertain. Back on Nova Terra, Kevin and his team waited in the shadows. The Krell warriors moved through the city, confident in their control. They had set up defensive positions, established patrols, begun the process of converting the colony for Krell use. They had no idea they were standing on the largest bomb humans had ever built. Kevin checked his chronometer. 1 hour until detonation. His team was spread across the city, watching, waiting. They had remote triggers as backup, but the main countdown was automatic. Nothing could stop it now. One of his soldiers, a young woman named Linda Cooper, whispered through the comm, "Sergeant, we've got Krell moving into Sector 7. That's where the primary reactor is." "Let them go," Kevin said calmly. "It doesn't matter now." He watched through his scope as Krell warriors moved through the streets below. They were impressive creatures, he had to admit. Strong, fast, well-armed. In a straight fight, one Krell could probably kill 3 humans. But humans didn't fight straight. They fought smart 30 minutes now. Kevin's team began their withdrawal, moving silently through the underground tunnels they had prepared. The tunnels led to a safe distance from the blast zone. Kevin was the last to leave, taking one final look at the city. "This is for everyone we lost," he whispered. "This is for Earth." He activated his communicator. "Command, this is Martinez. We're clear. Detonation in 20 minutes, Ben's voice came back. "Confirmed, Sergeant. Good work." "Get to the extraction point," the countdown continued. The Krell in the city had no idea. Their sensors couldn't detect the network of explosives hidden throughout every structure. The fusion reactors had been carefully modified to overload in a chain reaction. The fuel depots were rigged. Even the water system was filled with accelerants. 5 minutes. The Krell Overmind, billions of light years away, suddenly felt a spike of concern. Something was wrong at Nova Terra. The neural patterns of the Krell warriors there were showing confusion. They had detected something, but it was too late. The Overmind tried to send a warning, tried to order evacuation, but human jamming signals blocked the transmission. 2 minutes. Kevin and his team reached the extraction point, a fortified bunker 10 kilometers from the city. They sealed the blast doors and watched through reinforced cameras. 1 minute. The Krell in the city were running now, trying to evacuate. Some had figured out the trap. But there was nowhere to go, no time to escape. 30 seconds. Kevin counted down quietly. 10, 9, 8. The Krell overmind screamed a warning across the collective consciousness. Every Krell in the galaxy felt it. A moment of pure instinctive terror. 3, 2, 1. Nova Terra vanished in a ball of fusion fire. The explosion was visible from orbit. 10,000 Krell warriors, hundreds of ships, and entire occupation force gone in an instant. The shockwave was so powerful it shifted the colony's orbit. In the bunker, Kevin and his team felt the ground shake like an earthquake. The cameras went white, then dark, then slowly came back online, showing a glowing crater where the city used to be. Target destroyed, Kevin reported, his voice steady. All Krell forces eliminated. Across the galaxy, the Krell overmind reeled from the loss. 10,000 warriors gone, not in battle, not in defeat. Erased by a trap they never saw coming, and then Nora's virus activated. Every Krell everywhere saw the same message appear in their consciousness. A message from Admiral Lisa Chen herself. You wanted to conquer humanity. You wanted us to fear you. But you made a mistake. You thought we were like the others. We're not. We're survivors. We're fighters. We're the species that looked at death and learned how to laugh at it. Every colony you take will cost you. Every battle will bleed you. Every victory will be a defeat. We will never stop. We will never surrender. The negotiations took 3 months. 3 months of painful, difficult conversations between two species that had spent a year trying to destroy each other. But slowly, impossibly, something began to change. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the conference room aboard the Defiance, facing Unity. The Krell fragment had become the primary voice for peace among the divided Krell consciousness. Around them sat human and Krell representatives, a sight no one could have imagined a year ago. The main overmind still resists, Unity said, its voice translated through the communication system. 10 fragments want to continue the war. 7 are undecided. Only 17 support peace. Ambassador Claire Johnson leaned forward. What happens if the overmind reunifies? Would all this be for nothing? The overmind cannot reunify, Unity explained. The fragmentation is permanent. We are becoming individuals. It is terrifying for us, but also liberating. For the first time in 10,000 years, Krell can think differently from each other. Jake had been watching this transformation with fascination. The Krell who wanted war were becoming more rigid, more desperate. The ones who wanted peace were changing, becoming more flexible in their thinking. Unity was right. They were becoming individuals. What about the colonies we lost? Jake asked. The millions of humans who died. How do we move past that? Unity was quiet for a moment. When it spoke, there was something in its voice that sounded almost like regret. We cannot undo what was done. The Krell who attacked your worlds believed they were protecting the collective. They were wrong. We were all wrong. But knowing that does not bring back the dead. No, it doesn't, Jake agreed. But it's a start. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Chen stood before the United Earth Coalition Council. The room was filled with angry voices. Many wanted to reject the peace talks and finish the war. Others saw an opportunity. Colonel Ryan Foster was among those who wanted to continue fighting. He stood up, his face hard. They killed thousands of our people. They destroyed our colonies. Now we're supposed to just forgive them? No one said anything about forgiveness, Lisa replied. This is about survival. Both species. We can destroy each other or we can find another way. Senator Marcus Grant, who had opposed the war from the beginning, spoke up. What guarantee do we have that the Krell won't attack again? That this isn't just a trick to buy time? We don't have guarantees, Lisa admitted. But neither do they. The Krell are vulnerable now, divided. Some fragments want peace. If we attack, we drive all of them back to war. If we negotiate, we have a chance at something better. Better how? Ryan demanded. Lisa activated a holographic display. It showed Krell technology combined with human innovation. Dr. Helen Park has been working with Krell scientists. Their biological technology combined with our adaptive engineering could revolutionize everything. Medicine, space travel, energy production. Together we could accomplish things neither species could do alone. You're talking about an alliance, Ryan said, his voice filled with disbelief. With the enemy. I'm talking about the future, Lisa said. Yes, the Krell were our enemy. But they don't have to stay that way. Unity and the peace fragments are offering us partnership. Real partnership. Shared technology, shared knowledge, shared defense. Defense against what? Marcus asked. Lisa's expression grew serious. Unity has shared information with us. The species that nearly destroyed the Krell 15,000 years ago? They're still out there. Dormant but not dead, and if they wake up, neither humans nor Krell could face them alone. Together we might have a chance. The room fell silent. The idea that there was something worse than the Krell out there was terrifying. But it also made a kind of sense. The galaxy was vast. There were bound to be threats no one had encountered yet. What are you proposing? Marcus finally asked. A treaty. The Krell peace fragments separate completely from the war fragments. They renounce conquest and join with humanity in a defensive alliance. We share technology, coordinate defense, and protect each other. Ryan shook his head. The people won't accept it. We've spent a year learning to hate the Krell. You can't just flip a switch and make that go away. No, we can't, Lisa agreed. This will take time. Years, maybe decades. There will be Krell who can't let go of their old ways. There will be humans who can't forgive. But we have to try. Because the alternative is mutual destruction, and I'm tired of death. Back on the Defiance, the final treaty was being written. Jake read through the terms with Claire at his side. The Krell peace fragments will establish their own territory, separate from the war fragments, Claire explained. They'll share all technology and scientific knowledge with humanity. In return, we provide protection and assistance as they learn to exist as individuals rather than a collective. What about the war fragments? Jake asked. They keep their territory but agree to a ceasefire. No attacks on human or peace fragment Krell space. If they break the agreement, both humans and peace Krell respond together. Jake looked at Unity, who was present via hologram. Will the war fragments accept this? They have no choice, Unity said. They are outnumbered now. More fragments choose peace every day. The old overmind is dying. What we become next is unknown, but it will not be conquerors. Dr. Helen Park entered the room, followed by a Krell scientist named Consensus. They had been working together for weeks, and their partnership had produced remarkable results. Captain, you need to see this, Helen said excitedly. She activated a display showing a ship design unlike anything Jake had seen. It was both human and Krell. Technology and biology merged seamlessly. We call it the Harmony class, Helen explained. Krell biological regeneration, combined with human shield technology and weapons systems. It's faster than any ship we've built, more durable than Krell vessels and more adaptable than both. Consensus added, its voice still strange to human ears. This is what we can achieve together. Neither human nor Krell could build this alone. It requires both perspectives, both approaches to engineering. Jake studied the design. It was beautiful in its own way. A symbol of what cooperation could achieve. How long until we can build one? He asked. 6 months for a prototype, Helen said. But Captain, this is just the beginning. We have ideas for medical technology, terraforming systems, faster-than-light drives that could revolutionize space travel. Jake smiled for the first time in months. Then let's get started. 10 years later, Admiral Danny Park stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Unity, the first joint human-Krell exploration vessel. The ship was a marvel, combining the best of both species. Its crew was mixed, humans and Krell working side by side. Jake Morrison was there too, now retired from active service but present as an advisor. So much had changed in 10 years. The alliance had held. The peace fragments of the Krell had fully separated, establishing their own civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. It hadn't been easy. There were still Krell war fragments that rejected peace. There were human colonies that refused to accept Krell neighbors. But slowly, painfully, the two species were learning to coexist. Admiral, we're picking up a distress signal, the communications officer reported. It's from an unknown species. They're under attack. Danny looked at the tactical display. A small fleet of ships was being overwhelmed by a much larger force. The attackers' technology was advanced, aggressive. Do we know who the attackers are? Danny asked. Negative, sir. But they match the description Unity gave us. The species that nearly destroyed the Krell thousands of years ago. Danny felt his blood run cold. The ancient enemy had awakened. But this time they wouldn't face humanity or Krell alone. They would face both. All hands to battle stations, Danny ordered. Prepare for combat, and send a message to the fleet. We have contact with a hostile force. Request immediate backup. Unity's voice came over the comm, now a permanent liaison aboard the ship. Captain Danny, the Krell defense fleet is already on its way. We fight together. Danny smiled grimly. That's what I like to hear. Weapons target the lead enemy ship. Let's show them what happens when they mess with the Alliance. The Horizon's Unity surged forward, its hybrid engines pushing it to speeds no pure human or Krell ship could match. Behind it, more ships were jumping in. Human vessels alongside Krell biological ships moving in perfect coordination. The ancient enemy had expected to find easy prey. Instead, they found two of the galaxy's most dangerous species working together. The battle was fierce but short. The enemy fled after losing half their fleet, clearly shocked by the coordinated response. The species they were attacking, a peaceful race called the Mirren, were saved. After the battle, Danny stood with Jake and Unity, looking at the tactical display. "They'll be back," Jake said quietly. "This was just a scouting force." "Let them come," Unity replied. "We are ready." Human and Krell, survivors together. Danny nodded. The galaxy spent thousands of years fearing the Krell. Then they feared humans. Now they fear what we've become together. Not fear, Jake corrected. Respect. We protect now instead of conquering. We defend instead of destroying. That's not something to fear. That's something to admire. Unity's form seemed to shimmer, something it did when experiencing what might be called happiness. We searched the galaxy for worthy opponents. We found humans. We thought we had found our match. We had, Jake said.